Okay, picking up where we left off. I believe I said 2.1 at the end of the last video, but it's 3.1. So we just talked about medians. If you have an odd data set, an odd numbered data set, you're going to find an exact middle. If you have an even number, you get to two values and you average those two. Now, when the two values are the same, your middle is going to be that number. So next up is the mode. And the mode is the most. It's the data value that occurs most frequently. So a lot of times you hear that mode means most. So there's a couple different versions of mode. If all values occur once, we say there is no mode, because nothing occurs more than once. If one value occurs more than any other, so if one number occurs 3 times and everything else occurs max of 2, this is unimodal. Like unicycle. Unicycle has one tire. Unimodal means it has one mode. Two values that occur equally as much and more than the others is bimodal, like bicycle. Bicycle's 2 tires, bimodal, 2 modes. And we could keep going, trimodal, quadrimodal, quintomodal, but instead at 3 or more, we get lazy and we just call this multimodal. And that's just to keep it simple. So we have no mode, unimodal, bimodal, and multimodal. So in this next example, we're going to find the mode of the following data. And the way I do this is I go through and I just cross off all the ones that occur once. So I see the 1 is only here once. I see the 2 only here once. 3 is only here once. 4 only here once. 5 is here once. 7's here twice. Oh, 4 was here twice. So I shouldn't have crossed that off. 7 here is twice. 6 is once. I'm going to cross the 4 off because I can see right now the 8 has 3. So the 7's gone. So 8 has 3, 9 has 3. So this is 8 and 9, and this is bimodal. Now there is an easier way to do this on the calculator, which we'll talk about in these next 2 examples. So what I've got here is our data entered. See, you can see that there. In list 1, I've entered number 2. And in list 2, I've entered number 3. You can see it's quite a bit longer there. And so now we're going to talk about how we handle multi-data sets. So we're going to quit, go back to stat, and go over to one var stats again. So I've already got it up here. Now if you hit enter, it's just going to give you your one var stats and it defaults to the first list. Now we don't care necessarily right now that it's defaulting to the first list, but if you scroll down, you can see some extra information. It tells you your sample size, it tells you the median. You'll notice it does not tell you the mode. But what we can do is use another feature of the stats. So we're going to quit this and we're going to go to stat. We're going to come down here to sort A. Now this is going to sort ascending. That's what the A stands for. And then we're going to hit second 1 to put list 1 in there, close our parentheses, and hit enter. And it's just going to tell you it's done. So now when we go back to our list and we edit, we'll see that list 1 is sorted. Now, this still means you have to find the mode, but now I can look through and see, okay, I have 1, 2 2s, 1 3, 2 4s, a 7, an 8, a 9, a 12, a 17, and it's all in order. It makes it easier to count it up. So we can see that there are 2 2s in this and 2 4s, and so this is, again, bimodal, 2 and 4. And for this other one, we can do the same thing. So we quit. We go to stat, sort, and now we're going to do list 2, ascending. Now it's done. Go back to our list, list 2, And we can start going through and we see, okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 twos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nope, just 4 fours, 1, 2, 2 fives. So there were 5 threes in there. So that means 3 is our mode, and this is unimodal. So mode, you can imagine, is the least useful of the 3 measures of center we have, if only because it tells us just one specific thing, what shows up the most. So when we are choosing a measure of center, we need to make sure we're choosing an appropriate measure of center. And so this is always determined by the data set. And so the basic rule of thumb is if you have qualitative data, we usually go with the mode, because qualitative data means non-numerical data. Everything else, the mean and the median, are good choices, and a lot of times you'll see them shown up twice. In fact, if we go back to the calculator for a second here, and we go over to that one var stats, you'll see it gives us sample mean. It can also give us, that's also the population mean. Don't know why I forgot that. And it also tells us the median because it's there. So unless you have qualitative data, that's going to be what you want to use. So let's look at this example. We're going to calculate all 3. So we're going to use the calculator to help us out. So I'm going to go to my list and I'm going to edit this in. So I've got our list edited into my list 1 here. All in there, those values, and I'm going to second quit, stat, calculate, one var stats, and hit enter. And so this gives us a little bit of a shortcut here. Our mean, x bar, 75.25. Now we can leave it like that, or we can round it to 75.3, just 1 decimal place more. Our median, we have to scroll down to where it says median is 79.5. And our mode, we need to use the old-fashioned, just look at the data. So looking at our mode, I need to sort it first. So I'm going to quit and sort my list, list 1, enter, go back now, edit. So 42, 77, 78, 79, 80, 80. So that's the only one that duplicates is 80. So our mode is 80. So we can see the difference in our 3 measures of center here. Our mean, 75.3, our median, 79.5, and our mode is 80. Now, for well-ordered data, you will see these start to coincide. I mean, for instance, the median and the mode are virtually right on top of each other, and the mean is not quite there, but it is close. Now we'll talk about in a second here why this is happening. But let's do one more quick example where we talk about picking the right measures of center. So t-shirt sizes, small, medium, large, extra large. This is qualitative data, so we would look for mode to measure the center. For salaries of professional baseball players, we would look at the median of that. And for price of houses in one neighborhood, we would look at the mean. Now, some of you might be thinking, why don't I look at the mean for the baseball players? And this goes back to this value, this example here. Think about any professional sports. I just use baseball as an example here. Do all players make the same? So does someone like Mike Trout make the same amount of money as someone like Yonder Alonso? The answer, and if you don't know who those people are, that's fine. The answer is no. The really, really high paid players make a lot of money, and there are some players that make comparatively nothing. Now, we would all love to be professional sports athletes because even the ones that make comparatively nothing make six figures most of the time, but there's a big discrepancy. So the reason, just like here, we want to look at the median is because if we want a true idea of what's in the middle, the data is going to be skewed by those high paid players pulling the average up towards the top, and also skewed by the low paid players pulling the average back down. So you're not going to get a good measure of center out of something like professional baseball players because there's high variance, which we'll talk about in the next section. So that's the same reason this value here is so much lower comparatively to these two, is the outlier, which is 42, is affecting this. So when we flip the page, we have some properties. These are, think of this as a little shortcut table to keep the purpose and what each of these measures of centers do. Excuse me, in your head. So the mean is the average. The median is the middle. And the mode is the most. And those are the three classic terms to describe what they are. The mean may not be a data value. In fact, it's almost always not because it's an average. The middle is always, or not this one. This one may not be a data value because we may have to average 2 in the middle if there's an even number of data points. But the mode is always a data value. It must be a data value. So this is a single value, the mean. The median is a single value. The mode can be 0, 1, 2, or more values. We can have no mode, we can have unimodal, we can have bimodal, we can have multimodal. The mean is unfortunately affected by outliers in both directions and pulls that towards those outliers. Both the median and the mode are not affected by outliers. Not affected. By outliers. The mean, as we've talked about, is used for quantitative data. Man, I cannot spell quantitative today. Preferably no outliers. This is hopefully or preferably. Need to make this box just slightly bigger. The median is also used for quantitative data. And this can have outliers. The mode, as we've said, is used for qualitative data. And so some of you might be thinking, well, why can't we use the median for qualitative data as well? And you can, provided you know that you have an odd number of data points, because remember, when there's an even number, we have to average the two values that pop up in the middle. You can't average, for instance, shirt sizes. You can't average a medium and a medium to get a medium. Now, in that case, you could probably fudge it, but let's say your middle becomes medium and a large. There's no in-between size for medium and large. So we typically don't use the median unless it's quantitative data. So that's the end of 3.1.